everybody, I'm Natalia Bonner. Welcome to the 9 Patchalong 3.0 block number 5. I love this block. It's going to be so much fun to machine quilt. Today I'm going to be using my 4-in-1 machine quilting ruler with one of our Piece and Quilt pop socket ruler grips on my ruler. Now don't forget, you can pick up your companion workbooks. We have a design workbook and also a piecing workbook available on our website, pieceandquilt.com. Now, I do all of my quilting. Everything that I'm sharing with you is hand guided on my Gamble, right here, 22-inch machine, and I have my stitch length set at 13 stitches per inch for this particular series. So let's hop over to that machine and let's get stitching. Block number 5, we're going to treat it almost as if it's one giant block, which it is, but we're going to make it a star. I'm going to start out and mark the center on all 4 sides of that center blue block. Now I'm ready to start stitching. I'll start out my stitching using my 4-in-1 machine quilting ruler. You could also use a mini if you do not have the 4-in-1, and I'm going to stitch in the ditch through the center of this block. I tell you all the time, but I just love the look of Stitch in the Ditch and how it finishes things off so nicely. Just gives that nice custom look. Anytime you're doing Stitch in the Ditch, make sure you have a ruler foot on your machine and you're going to hold your ruler 1/4 of an inch away from where you want your thread to intersect. Now let's start quilting on the blocks. I'm going to start on a white square first. On this white square from the outside, I'll stitch right to that center point and then from that center point back to the outside. Now I've created 3 new triangles. So in those 2 outside triangles, I am going to fill those in with straight lines. Now you could do like matchstick quilting, something like that, but I chose to do straight lines that are all evenly spaced 1/4 of an inch apart. I wanted that nice, crisp, clean look, and I love me some heavy quilting. So to keep my lines evenly spaced 1/4 of an inch apart, I hold my machine quilting ruler so the side of the ruler is right on top of my thread, my previous stitch. And then from there, I'll stitch right back and forth, filling in that space. Once I have that first triangle complete, filled in with those straight lines, now I'm going to move to the next block. I'm going to work on an orange block now. Now this is going to kind of be like the setting block on the star that I'm creating, so I'm going to fill it in with a nice long filler. I'm choosing figure 8s. I love the way that they create kind of a bit of curvature. They soften things up just a little bit, but they still give that illusion of straight lines kind of radiating out from the center of the block. So I'll start out small with those. They'll get larger in the center and then small again as I work my way to the outside. Now, once I have that complete, I'll move on to my next white block, and I'm again going to work on those straight lines. Now, the way that you're viewing this here, it's almost as if you're standing behind my machine as I'm quilting. When I'm machine quilting with rulers, I prefer to hold my ruler in my left hand, and I'm guiding my machine with my right hand. So on a design like this, I am more comfortable holding the ruler on the left side, which you can see here, or on the bottom towards my body. Play around with the rulers and see what works best for you. But for me, sometimes I will take a few extra stitches or travel across my block to a new place that might add extra stitching. But if I'm more comfortable holding my rulers in a certain position, to me, it's worth the extra effort to hold the ruler there. I hope that made a little bit of sense. So from there, now I'm going to travel to my next corner block, and again, I'm going to fill in with those long figure 8s. So if you've never stitched these before, or if you're struggling, the companion design workbook has this all illustrated really nicely for you. And I suggest grabbing a pencil. There are blank blocks in the design workbook where you can draw your own designs. You can draw right on top of the designs. You can make notes. Use that as a place to practice and then come to your fabric and start quilting. So now I'm going to move on to my next white triangle and repeat that same process. Well, I should say white square that I'm turning into a triangle, and fill that in with those straight lines. So again, I also have that peach So Fine thread here on my machine. It's really fun on a design like this because with the heavy quilting in the white blocks, the peach color thread almost kind of creates extra interest and kind of almost makes it look like the fabric in that area is kind of peach, but it's not. It's what we're creating with our machine quilting. So now that I have that third block complete, I'm going to travel down to my third corner and I'm going to again stitch those figure eights. So start out small in the corner and work my way across the block. Anytime I do machine quilting with rulers, I do have an extended base plate on my machine. You can't see it here because it's underneath the quilt, but the extended base plate is a product that I highly recommend, but I'm almost going to say don't even attempt to do ruler work without one, whether you're working on a domestic machine or a long arm machine. You need to have a nice flat working surface. So by having the extended base plate on here, it does a couple of things. First of all, it creates that nice flat surface for me to hold my rulers on as I'm machine quilting, but also it kind of gives the illusion here on camera that my quilt is really, really tight on my long arm machine. It's not quite as tight as it looks. You definitely need to have a little bit of play and a little bit of give in your fabrics when you load them on the long arm. But by having that extended base plate here, it definitely gives the illusion that I have my quilt really tight on the machine. Also, don't forget as you're stitching out this design, gentle pressure is your friend. When you're holding your hand on the machine, you want really light pressure. I sometimes tell my students almost finger weight pressure. The pressure that I'm applying against the side of my ruler is very, very gentle. The heavier your pressure is and the more you're pushing against your ruler and you're pushing your ruler against your foot, the more inaccurate your machine quilting really is going to be. So relax a little bit, take a deep breath, relax those shoulders, and you'll actually end up with a little bit better result, more smooth and beautiful lines. So moving on to my final corner, I'll fill in again with those figure eights. Now again, this is a place where you could change out that design. If you didn't want to stitch figure eights, you could do something else in there. I just chose to do figure eights because I love the illusion that they give. All right, now let's travel right to the center of this block and finish the center off. So I'm going to use those markings that I've created using my blue Mark Be Gone marker and stitch point to point. Make sure that you hold your 4-in-1 machine quilting ruler so that the ruler is 1/4 of an inch away from where you want your thread to intersect. So once I've created that square in a square right in the center, then again, I'm going to fill that in with those evenly spaced straight lines. So I'll stitch line to stitch line, travel across my stitch line, and stitch the next straight line, all evenly spaced 1/4 of an inch apart. Block number 5 has been so much fun. I love that it's on a 9 patch and I'm giving it the illusion of creating a star. So when you look at a 9 patch, don't get stuck and feel like you have to treat every single patch on that square the exact same. Do something like this and you can create a whole new design. I love how block number 5 turned out. I hope you all found a bit of inspiration. I can't wait for block number 6.